Today we are talking about one of the longest running raider gangs to ever roam the wasteland. That's right, and you can love them or you can hate them, but do you know the history behind this once powerful group? Today we're covering the Great Khans, so make sure to like the video and comment what Fallout history you want me to cover next, and let's jump right into it. The Khans were once the most widely known raider group to ever emerge from Vault 15. However, they dwindled over the years, though their name still lives on. Throughout this video, we will be discussing the three major generations of their legacy, starting at the very beginning when they were just called the Khans. On the Reclamation Day for Vault 15, the Khans were born from a small group that split from the other residents leaving the vault. In the following spring, as winter drew near and supplies dwindled, they set out to raid nearby camps in order to survive the winter months. The group closely mimicked the style of the ancient Mongol warriors, raiding towns and caravans, then burning what was left in their wake, and taking captives to use as laborers, focusing the majority of their attention on those they shared with the vault. Shady Sands and other larger towns such as the Hub were some of the main targets. The Khans sought nothing but power through strength and would stop at nothing. Newly initiated members would have to prove their strength through hand-to-hand combat, as the strong survived and the weak died. It was this mindset that drove them to war with other raider groups. They believed that they were the strongest raiders of all time and that all others should be wiped out. Forming large war parties, the Khans went to war with the Jackals, a group that was also formed from Vault 15 members. The Khans brutalized the Jackals so badly that they forced them to retreat out of the state altogether. By the year 2162, the Khans were being led by a man named Garl Deathhand. Garl was a force to be reckoned with, as he was seen as one of the most violent leaders, going so far as to kill his own father to secure his place as the head of the Khans. Garl led the Khans to be a formidable threat in the wasteland, saw to it that his warbands were seen as a permanent part of the world. Garl's delusions for greatness led him to believe that he could overtake the entire world. His raids on the northern part of California wasteland grew to be so intense that many settlements were facing extinction. Fortunately, the wasteland terror that was Garl Deathhand came to an abrupt end when they made the fatal error that cost them dearly. The Khans grew greedy and saw it fit for the title of the wasteland's most brutal band of raiders, and they attacked Shady Sands and kidnapped the soon-to-be president of the NCR. It was this decision to take Tandy that brought Garl Deathhand to his end, as the Vault Dweller came to her rescue and nearly annihilated the Khans to rescue her. It was here that Garl Deathhand met the same fate that many of his victims did, looking down the end of a barrel. However, Garl's son, Darian, was the only one who escaped the Vault Dweller's attack, and he went on to rebuild the new Khans. Darian's only goal was to seek revenge by killing Tandy. He blamed her for the death of his fellow Khans. Being the only survivor of his clan, Darian was pushed into hiring mercenaries to replace his fellow tribesmen and women. However, over the years, Darian's want to obliterate Tandy eventually turned from hatred into an obsession. Darian had moved the new Khans into the ruins of Vault 15 and established a rather cunning decoy to chase off unsuspecting NCR troops. Darian had convinced the local squatters to move into the outer areas of the vault and use them to deter snooping NCR troops, using his new tribe to raid NCR caravans and supplying the squatters to keep them in line. You see, Darian had told the squatters that he could fix the vault, even though he himself knew it was beyond repair. So, to supplement the fact that the vault was completely destroyed, he raided caravans for supplies and gave it to the squatters, saying it was from the vault. Not only had he tricked the local squatters into helping him, but he was smart enough to plant a spy into the NCR Congress and was receiving near-perfect intel on NCR plans. Though cunning as he was, Darian was not ready for Tandy to send a descendant of the Vault Dweller to Vault 15 to collect remaining computer parts. forcing Darien to meet the same demise that his father succumbed to many years prior. So the new Khans had fallen, and once again their fate was up in the air. The survivors of the new Khans scattered out into the wasteland, as Darien's legacy faded over the 25 years that they were scattered. Though the Khans did not die here, they managed to reform once again into one single group, no longer scattered into small outfits around California, but one united Khan tribe, led by the one and only Papa Khan. With Papa Khan in charge, they became the Great Khans, and he led his tribe out of California and into the Mojave Wasteland. Once they had arrived in the Mojave, they established contact with the followers of the Apocalypse, who trained the Great Khans in chemistry, reading, and writing in the hopes to turn the Khans into a force of good for the Wasteland. Though this plan quickly backfired, as the Great Khans turned what they had learned into an opportunity to produce drugs, and became profitable drug runners. The Great Khans quickly rose to power and became the single most organized group of raiders in the Mojave Wasteland. That was, until the NCR arrived. When Robert House was alerted to the presence of NCR scouts at the Hoover Dam, he saw it best to re-establish Vegas. With a battalion of his Securitrons, House ended the conflict between the warring tribes and cemented his rule. House brought in those who swore their loyalty to him and forced the Great Khans out of their residence of North Vegas, leading them to establish a new home at Bitter Springs. The Great Khans went on to establish a dominant hold over the Mojave Wasteland, as House hadn't begun to take over much else other than Vegas. They began to raid incoming supply caravans from the NCR and any established town or settlement that flew the NCR flag, as they seemed to be ripe for the picking during the early years of the NCR expansion. Though their raids on the NCR didn't last long, as the First Battle of Hoover Dam drew near, the NCR bolstered their hold on the region. The NCR left the Great Khans alone for a time, but once they started capturing and killing soldiers, the NCR put a stop to it. This resulted in the Bitter Springs Massacre and the near defeat of the Great Khans. As the NCR attacked Bitter Springs, they had all routes leaving the ridge covered and ended up massacring fleeing women, children, and old folk without hesitation. The Great Khans left Bitter Springs as a broken image of their once powerful glory. The NCR allowed the remaining broken Khans to live out their days in Red Rock Canyon. The Khans turned to alcoholism and drug abuse, as they had lost all hope. Though not all members had lost their want for war, as some of the Khans managed to maintain a fighting spirit and waged guerrilla war on NCR supply lines, no matter how costly. The rest of their history is up to the Courier to decide. Side with the Legion, help the NCR, or leave the Mojave for good. What was the Khans' ending for you? Did you help this once great war clan regain their independence, or did you wipe them out? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, I'll see you in the Wasteland.
During the Battle of Hoover Dam, the Great Khans quickly evacuated Red Rock Canyon and headed north and east into the plains of Wyoming. There, they reconnected with the followers of the Apocalypse and rebuilt their strength. Bolstered by ancient knowledge of governance, economics, and transportation, they carved a mighty empire out of the ruins of the Northwest.